Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sports Blitz here, and we're back with another NFL record prediction. Before I get into it, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Today we're doing the Atlanta Falcons. So, going over their depth chart first. I just want to throw out, if there was any team that I would actually bet on winning the NFC South this year, it'd probably be Atlanta. Um, I think they've I think they've got a much improved roster. As a Panthers fan, as you can see, this is definitely the team in the South that scares me most. So, just want to throw that out for you Falcons fans here. So going over the roster, they got Kirk Cousins. I think he's a super underrated quarterback. I think he can still play at a high level. I don't know that 4 years was necessarily the right choice because really I think he's probably only got two, maybe three more good years in him. But, you know, to get a good quarterback, that's kind of a risk you got to take. Um, they did also draft Michael Penix. I think 8 overall, I think is what it was. Um, I think that was too high for him. I mean, I talent wise, I think he's more of a very late first to early second rounder. Though I can understand why they did it because of the demand in quarterbacks this draft had. Because, to be perfectly fair, I don't think J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and I feel like there was one other quarterback drafted in the first that I was thinking. Um, but anyways, I don't think they should have been first rounders either. So I get why they did it. There was a high demand for them this year. They didn't want to lose their guy, so it's understandable. But I mean, by the time he's gonna really be able to play and start, he's probably gonna be like 27 years old. So that's a little scary, if you ask me. Um, but then running backs, I mean, they've got one of the best tandems in the whole league. I think Bijan's gonna have just an insane year. I really do. They very, very underused him last year. Used him incorrectly. Um, it sounds like the new coach, for some reason I can't remember his name right now. Anyways, it sounds like he really wants to use Bijan a lot more, have him featured a lot more, and that's got to be music to Falcons fans' ears. So I think he's going to be really good. Tyler Algier is very underrated as well. Really good tandem. Receiver wise, they've got Drake London, who he's a solid receiver. I don't think he's like phenomenal. I don't think he's gonna jump out and suddenly be a top 10 receiver, but he's a good receiver. They've got Darnell Mooney. They signed him this offseason. Then they also actually made a trade for Rondale Moore. Honestly, I think Rondale is going to turn into their wide receiver 3. I think he's going to be much better than Ray McCloud. I don't think McCloud's really all that good. I think he's honestly more of a, kick and maybe punt returner. So I think Rondale Moore will take that wide receiver 3 spot and run with it. Kyle Pitts, it sounds like they want to use him a lot more as well. So fantasy football owners, it might not be a bad idea to take him this year, but I understand the fear there. So it does sound like they want to use him more though, so that's good. Robert Burns, I'm going to be honest, there's not many teams that even use a fullback anymore, so I really don't know much about this guy, so can't really cover that much. The offensive line looks really good. Jake Matthews is a solid left tackle. Matt Bergeron is, I don't think he's anything special at left guard, but he's all right. He's a he's a usable left guard. Um, Same with Drew Dahlman. I don't think he's anything special, but he's solid there. Then they've got Chris Lindstrom at right guard. I think he's one of the best right guards in the league. Um, Definitely the best offensive lineman they have. Then they've got Caleb McGarry, another solid tackle. Honestly, overall, Falcons probably have a top 10 O line. Um, Probably more in like the 6 or 7, maybe 8 range. So good O line there. Defensively, they got Zach Harrison going into it's either year 2 or 3. Um, I think he's a pretty solid D end there. And they've got David Onyemata that they signed from the Saints last off season. Pretty solid nose tackle there. Then they've got Grady Jarrett, who, I mean, he's been with the Falcons his entire career. We all know who he is. He's a real solid D tackle. Or yes, in this case, D end. But there's that. They did also draft Rook or Hort. I can never pronounce his name. Rook or Hort. You know what his name is. Um, Honestly, like, I don't think he was necessarily a bad draft pick, but I definitely think they drafted him a little early. But hey, if he's your guy, go get him. So, pretty solid right there. I will also throw out Tommy Togiai. I actually knew him from high school. Super cool guy. It's good to see how how much he's been able to like elevate his game. Going to Ohio State and then getting drafted and being with the Browns and now the Falcons. He's a he's a good dude. It's good to see. So linebackers. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know who James Smith Williams is. I also don't know why he's over Arnold Ebikette. Um, I think Ebikette should definitely start over him because I really don't know who it is. Um, so take that for what it is. Caden Ellis is actually a pretty solid linebacker. He's pretty good in pass coverage from what I've seen. Troy Anderson's kind of the same thing, kind of more of a coverage linebacker, but I think he'll be good at stopping the run as well. They've got Lorenzo Carter, which, he's been in the league for a while now. He's a solid linebacker as well. I don't think that linebacking core is necessarily anything special, but they'll get the job done. For their corners, they've got AJ Terrell. I still think he's an extremely underrated corner. I mean, just a couple years ago, we were talking about him as a, top 10, maybe top 7 corner in the league, and then people kind of just stopped talking about him. He's still a real good player, all right? If they use him correctly, I think he could get back to that, top 7, top 8 form. And then they've got Clark Phillips the third on the other side. I didn't expect that he was gonna jump out and be this good of a corner this early on, because this is only his, again, either second or third season. I get the last couple years mixed up a little bit, and he's instantly, turned into a good player there. So, excited to see what he does this year. Richie Grant, I think he's a solid, strong safety. He was actually another guy that a couple years ago in the draft I was really wanting my Panthers to get. Well, of course, he went to a divisional rival, so there's that. Jesse Bates. I know there's a lot of debate around him. I believe he's the best safety in the league. I'm just going to say it. I think he's better than your Antoine Winfield, your Minka Fitzpatrick, drawing a blank on some of the other safeties for some reason. But anyways, I think he's the best safety in the league. I really do. I think he's insane. Um, so definitely the real star of that defense. And then they've got Mike Hughes, who isn't a bad nickel either. You know, he's a solid nickel corner there. So, um, looking through some of their backups, Eddie Goldman's also solid. Actually, I'm surprised he's that far down on the depth chart. Um, got Braylon Trice. I could see him kind of working his way up a little bit and getting some play time. Um, Bradley and Nye, another good edge rusher there. I think the issue with him is if he's the guy I'm thinking of, he's really fast, but he doesn't have any power in his edge rushing. So he's kind of a one-trick pony there. So maybe you'd like to see him gain, 20, 25 pounds and, you know, work on other mechanics in his game, but solid player there. So, jumping over to the record prediction, I mean, I think that's a really good roster. I think they've got a good coach now. They should be fun to watch. So, let's go through their record prediction. So, kicking off week 1, they're at home against the Steelers. It'll be interesting to see who the Steelers roll out as quarterback week 1. It sounds like Justin Fields is kind of giving Russell Wilson a run for his money. I think this is going to be a pretty defensive and run-heavy type of game, all right? I think both teams are going to run the ball 25 times, honestly. I think it's going to be very run-heavy. I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to the Falcons here. If it was in Pittsburgh, I'd probably roll the other way. Because usually for home field advantage, I give like a 3 or 4 point edge, to whoever's at home. And I think it's going to be that close, I think Falcons win here by 2 or 3. So, week 2, they go to Philly on Monday night. I have a hard time seeing them beat them in Philly in prime time. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to the Eagles. Week 3, they've got the Chiefs. I don't know that they're quite ready for the Chiefs yet. That's a really hard first 3-game stretch for them. I'm going to give that to the Chiefs. But then I think they get some good revenge going and beat the Saints, beat the Bucks. The Bucks is also on prime time there, but I think they'll be able to run the ball really well against them. And then week 6, this game actually I'll be at in Charlotte. I think this is going to be a close game, but I think the Panthers are also improved enough that they'll at least be able to, split with the Falcons. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Panthers, but I do think the Falcons, beat them week 18. So there's that. Then I think the Falcons beat the Seahawks week 7. I think they lose to the Bucks week 8. Honestly, something seems to be going on with Dallas this offseason. Like, they don't seem focused. I think there's so much stuff going on with Jerry Jones and all the contract situations. It doesn't seem like they're real focused. So I think they're going to have a down year. I'm going to go ahead and give this to the Falcons. And then I do think the Falcons actually sweep the Saints. And I think they beat the Broncos. Coming off a bye, I think they beat the Chargers. I think they lose a sneaky one to the Vikings. I could see them beating the Vikings. I'm not a huge fan of the Vikings defense. I think the Falcons could run on them quite a bit. But I think because of the Vikings offense, I think it's going to be kind of a high-scoring game, and Minnesota does just enough to win. So, but then I do think they beat the Raiders on Monday night. I think the Raiders have a good roster. I really do. But similar to the Falcons last year, even though they had a good roster, they didn't have a quarterback. I'm not confident in Aiden O'Connell and um, Gardner Minshew right now. I don't think Minshew's gonna be that guy. I mean, he's kind of a journeyman already, you know. Um, and nothing against him. I don't think he's really that dude yet, you know. So and then I do think they'll beat the Giants and then beat the Commanders. So overall, that actually gives the Falcons a 12-5 record. Um, I think they've got a pretty small margin for their floor and ceiling. I mean, if you look at their floor, I think they could lose to the Steelers. I think they could drop one to the Saints. See them dropping to the Cowboys. So that makes their floor like 9-8. But then let's flip those back real quick. And looking at their ceiling, you know, you could see them sweeping the Panthers. And then we could see them beating the Vikings for as much as a 14-3 record. I think that might be a little ambitious, but I could see it happening. If they overperform that much, I could see it happening. But let's go ahead and flip it back. Which ones was I? Here we go. Yeah, so 12-5. I think it's enough for them to win the NFC South. I think some of the teams in the South are better than people think. I think the Panthers are much improved, and I think the Bucks are improved. I think, honestly, the Saints are the team that drops significantly. So, Falcons fans, let me know what you think of this record prediction in the comments section below. Again, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Later.